Welcome back to Planning Phase Syndicate. Thank you all for joining us for our Universe Extended review of Andor, episode 7, 8, and 9, I believe, at this point. I guess I didn't look up the episode numbers, but I'm pretty sure we were 3 behind the 8 ball here. Joining me on mic tonight for our Universe Extended conversation is JJ, the Giants hater himself. How are you tonight, sir?
If by Giants you mean the Imperials, yes. Yes. Perfect.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So really excited about Andor. These last 3 episodes have just been building up that momentum. It was coming with the aftermath of the heist. Andor decides he wants to first off going back to his home planet to go see his mom to try to get her out. Like I get the sentiment. It was really sweet for him to try to go over there, but at the same time, it's like you're on the run from the Empire. You're being hunted, and obviously you're going to leave a trace, and you're going to get other people involved into this now. And of course, that comes later on where we see where they end up capturing Bix because of Andor's involvement over there. It was kind of sad to see that transpire. Like he's thinking very short term or trying to get out and trying to escape, and then just basically ignoring the general calls for it. And then while he's on vacation on a different planet, happens to get arrested anyway. And the moment where we see the Imperial droid come in to come in, I was like, oh my god, is that K2SO that's coming in to like come in and arrest them? But I don't think that was K2SO. But the ball's on Cassian. I mean, obviously he didn't want to give out his name so that he wouldn't be, captured as Cassian. But ends up taking the rap for somebody else's crime, and he gets 6 years in jail. Oh man, that was rough.
Yeah, that's definitely not to K2SO. I think one of the big things for me, I'm sorry, one of the big things for me for that episode is it's weird that he got caught anyway. Like, I don't know if it was meant to move the story forward to help trigger his desire, his hatred of the Empire, but it felt a little weird him getting caught that way. Like a little out of place.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because I think
it felt a little forced.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, again, this show has well exceeded anything I'd hope for at this point, personally. This show really has gone above and beyond anything I'd ever thought was possible for it. And yeah, I guess I could see, for me, when he gets arrested, it's kind of like, well, the Empire is creating a machine to do what we learn about, producing shit, right? Like, they're using slave labor. That's what they're doing. And we learn, we always knew that about the Empire. We always knew that was a thing that, happens all the time. But here we now see it in action, right? And this is only the first time we get to see it per se in this type of a scenario, right? We're going to see it happen towards the end of the last episode, where they all of a sudden realize, oh shit, we're stuck here for life. And when we talk about, I feel like they're trying to help give us this, let's redeem the Empire's, methods, right? Like, let's get these ISB involved. And yes, is it wrong to steal things? Yes. Should you go kill somebody and get away with it? No. But then they just come back and they just screw it over, and they just basically, like, the Empire is using these weird cliche moralistic avenues to justify injustice, which is really truly what pure authoritarian disgust comes from, right? And the sad thing is, I don't know if you've watched The Handmaid's Tale at all, ever.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Like, some of these things, when you see The Handmaid's Tale, you think, holy crap, this is not good, right? Like, we don't want to live in this authoritarian America. And then you think about what happened, and again, I guess it's getting a little political here, but, like, when you think about what happened with Trump and some of the way these people talk, you just sit here and see relevancy, right? And I'm not saying Trump's a Nazi or Trump's going to turn into the Empire. I don't think he's that smart. And I don't think there's enough smart people to make an empire in this world. right now. But the equivalency to some of these crazy things that people want to do and say, and like how they want to take away certain pieces of rights, is just crazy to me, right? Like, oh, we're just going to make this decision and move on. Um, so to me, I think the commentary piece of it goes a little bit deeper, just because we're seeing a more aggressive side of the Empire we've not seen specifically before, right?
Yeah, especially when it came to the whole interrogation scene with the girl, them using that psychological torture of like getting the recordings on the children that they were killing, and playing it for her, so that way she can basically break. Like that was horrible, absolutely horrible. Like man, like that is probably the most brutal thing I've seen the Empire do, like in terms of like just breaking somebody. Like that's nuts.
Yeah, and I don't think we see that in some of the movies, really, right? We
No.
that's not, we know that they're torturing them, but we don't know how, and that kind of brings it a little bit home, you know. I mean, some of the, you got to think, the way they talk about it is like effectively like they're murdering people to get information.
Hmm.
Like that's what they're doing at any cost.
Yeah, exactly. Their ends justify the means in their way. And it's just brutal as well. Like especially when you consider the type of environment that they had, those labor prisons, basically turning their work into a competition, so that way you're not the table that gets punished, and you're basically, and you could see Andor kind of get lost in that as well, because he kind of loses his drive to like resist a little bit in order for him to cooperate and like try to, and it drives him to do better at creating those machines for the Empire, just so he avoids getting that punishment that the less productive tables get. Like it's crazy, the mind games upon mind games that the Empire has these people who are imprisoned going through. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you got to think about it. Like, where do they get the time to come up with these things, right? Like, if you, it must be this. I have a Empire machine and can print money, and therefore, here we go, right? Um, I don't know. So okay, we're gonna move. We're gonna kind of move a little bit into some of the newer episodes. This is Black Mirror like esque, right? Like not quite to that level, but pretty close. I don't know if you have you ever seen Black Mirror?
I have not. No.
Okay, so Black Mirror has some very dark dystopian output tales. These, the way that they're torturing people feels like right, but the way that the prison scenes are set up and the way that they're directed and filmed is very Black Mirror-ish. You have one person doing the sign language, right, to communicate with the other deck,
Yeah.
but nobody knows about it and they don't make it a big thing. That's very Black Mirror-ish. The we're gonna electrocute the floors. That's Black Mirror-ish. Like 100%. Like don't tell me that we ever saw the Empire be that smart that they're gonna electrify floors so that they don't have to put guards down there. That's crazy. Where's my ISB jingoist that doesn't hand out strain but just murders a ship? There you go.
Dead Man Switch Jingoist. That's what it is.
Yeah. Oh my god. Except for you don't explode. When you would take a damage or when you would die, you transfer your death to somebody else.
Oh God. Jeez, no.
There,
Please
I've
no.
just ruined. Where's Greg? I've ruined the Empire for you. Fuck. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. In all this though, like and I like the storytelling piece of it, like especially just focusing at Andor, is that after all this is happening and he's witnessing how the Empire is basically just they're dangling the carrot of freedom to these guys, and they're telling them that once their days are ended, then they get to leave, but nobody actually ever leaves the prison. And once he finds that out, like he's immediately into, I need to break out, I need to get out of here. And it really brings it home on that last episode where the older guy basically has a stroke on the floor, and the doctor basically confirms what he thought all along, that nobody gets out, there, because of the strict measurements from Cassian's heist, it's gotten worse for everybody else, and now he knows that he has to get out of there because he's going to die no matter what.
Yeah. Which now he's on a clock. There's a clock now. And I guess I'll be honest, I think that was weird that the Empire, because I don't think the Empire didn't let people out, right? Like, it seemed before they would let people out of prisons, but maybe because this is such early into the need for labor, they didn't. Which kind of goes back to the why they arrested him to begin with, is because they didn't care. It was just another body to, you know, throw into the machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a little to me, it's a little bit different in some of the aspects, right? But at the exact same time, them learning they aren't getting off, all of a sudden now Cassian's got a new fervor, and I think this is the catalyst that we're gonna get, right? We're gonna get this catalyst because his supervisor was very resistant to him until subtly Cassian said, "You understand, you are never going home, right? You can stop counting your days now, buddy, because you're done. You're gonna be here for life."
Yep.
They don't care. And like, I think that, like, and this, again, this is just my take, but when we talk about like the Nazis in the concentration camps, right? Like, there is hope, right, inside of these concentration camps. If you've ever talked to anybody from the era or watched any of some of the documentaries, there's this hope there. But in reality, the Nazis just turn and spit you out. That's what this is, just in a very highly technological arena, is you have people that are looking at everyone as inhuman at this point, as we have a goal to accomplish and we don't care how we get there.
Yep.
They're not the underpants gnomes. They don't know how they're going to not get there. They know for a fact how they're going to get there, through murder, through all these other things. Like, it's crazy. And this is like, to me, like, and again, like when we talk about dystopian, we talk about, like, we talk about these specific things and these ideas. This brings it home of how horrible the Empire actually is. Like, all of us that want to fly Darth Vader in X-Wing, we should probably be a little ashamed of ourselves because we're flying a faction that is specifically aggressively horrible. These people are horrible people.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it really just drives home like the state of the galaxy now that the Empire's in control, like what's really going on behind the scenes that leads to rebellion. Because before, if you take a look at, just the original trilogy, like the rebellion is just an idea, right? We're rebelling because we just don't want to be to the Empire. And we just see it on a grander scale in terms of like the battles, right? We don't get to see that day-to-day suffering that every, like the individual suffers on behalf of the Empire. You only just hear stories. Andor just illuminates that to a more to much greater detail to see what the Empire is really doing and why this is such a need for the rebellion to overthrow the Empire, because that desperation of what comes of it. And then when you look at the political side of what's going on inside of Mon Mothma, I mean, just finding out that her sister was the one that was actually leading the attack for that heist, that was a huge revelation there at that second episode there. What are your thoughts on this? Do you suspect that because of her involvement here, does this compromise Mon Mothma's family going forward? Do you think that they'll actually survive before she ends up going into exile?
So that wasn't her sister. That was her cousin, I thought.
She shared the last thing. I thought it was a sister. I could be wrong though.
Either which way.
Yeah.
Either
family
which way.
member.
Family member. Yes. So, I do think their family will survive. Okay. Like, I'm just going to, I guess I'm going to state it. I think that they will survive at least this season. I think if we go into season 2 and we continue down this line, it's going to be a choice Mon Mothma has to make. Do I save my family or do I save the rebellion? I think that's where we're going to get into that correct. Maybe we'll see it this season. In fairness, we know nothing about her family. What's her daughter's name?
I forget. I forget.
All right. So I would be interested to go through lore and see if her daughter's name shows up secretly somewhere.
Okay.
Because I will tell you, if they sacrifice her family and she has to make that decision for the rebellion, that's pretty dark. Like
Yeah.
that's not a Disney-esque. That's an
It's a Sophie's
HBO
choice.
Max thing. Yeah. like,
Yeah.
like we're moving past Disney's normal, which I'm okay with, right? Like I'm okay with the Disney being a little bit more adult sometimes. Um,
Yes.
because like these are the conversations like I have with my children, right? You know, like, and again, I apologize. I try not to get super political here as much as I can. But you know, like we've had, like my daughters and I've had to have conversations. When Hillary lost to Trump, we had to have a conversation about why a woman cannot be president. We actually had to have this conversation. Which, growing up, I never thought I'd like those things just don't ring bells with you until like it becomes personal. And my daughter literally sat and asked that question, like innocently, didn't understand why. Why can men never? Why is always a man always elected? And it's a really fair question. And so now we're gonna put a woman, right? You know, like in the Star Wars universe, if she has to choose between her family and freeing everybody from a tyranny that's horrible, that's a very adult choice and a very adult conversation people are gonna have to have. I'm here for it personally. Like, give me some Disney that wants to make you, that wants to piss off some people. I'm okay with that. And not in the way of just saying, well, Han Solo is this, or, you know, we got a new Chewbacca, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't need a Boba Fett pissing people off. I want to piss people off because to me, and this, maybe this is just me, but to me, Star Wars is very powerful because it's about revolution. It's about minorities rising up. It's about people saying we've had enough of this. And it's a way for people to free themselves and fight back. And maybe George Lucas didn't see this as this big magnum opus, but that's what it is now. If you read any of the books, if you look at any of these things, it is a magnum opus to how do we fight ongoing tyranny. And like that, to me, that's just the power of that is so crucial where we're at. And we can stand on opposite political sides, right? And that's fine.
Yeah.
But we always have to fight tyranny. There always has to be a fight for this. And if Disney actually wants to stand up and like throw their foot in the ring or their hat in the ring, whatever the hell you want to call it, and be very aggressive about this, I'm here for it. You know, and all I can say is I better get a little bit more Saw. That's what I better get. I better get me some more Saw because Saw and Clone Wars was awesome, and I'm really here for some. Give me some Saw. Well, I'm going to see what Saw does.
Yeah, definitely. That the episode where he has that conversation with Luthien, that was definitely a lot more livelier Saw than what we saw in Rogue One. Just being able to see that clash of ideas between Luthien and Saw, that was definitely one of the most interesting like conversations between the two of them, and seeing how they react. And you know, Luthien just trying to get Saw to join the rebellion, help them out and stuff like that. And Saw is just not about like forming up or grouping up because he just doesn't trust anybody at all. He just wants to fight the Empire on his own and do whatever he wants, without being tied to the idealism that the current rebellion has. And just seeing that conflict between the two, but they still respect each other, like that was really interesting.
As Deslin said, you're gonna get Sawed. I agree. I to me, Saw is the best part of this whole show. Like I love this show, but what drew me in was bringing Saw back. That anti-rebellion anarchist that doesn't care what tomorrow brings, only cares what he can affect today to tear things apart. Like he has my heart. Like that's like it was funny because we had this conversation, you know, and you were like, I think you're Lucian. And it's like, technically speaking, yes, because I like that's me. I'm the socialite, you know, like I you know, suck up, I kiss ass. I'm probably the guy that's gonna get, you know, like sucked into these stupid corporate things, but I'm still a rebel at heart, you know. And Saw's just I never cared for any of this. I've always been here. Like Like I never like ever since Clone Wars, Saw has just gone out. And we aren't going to talk about Tales of the Jedi tonight. I apologize. I really want to go into that too. I don't have enough time with work tomorrow, but um I wish they would do some Tales of the Jedi, but do this for focusing around Andor things. Like, where was Lucian before this? Like, can we get just a small 15-minute episode? Can we get a transition for Saw between Rebels and today? Right? Like, give me that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Because there's, and again, you could almost, we should get out of this middle empire-ish, life that we live, but Saul could have his own side arc story, just like or do what they do with Marvel and give it like a 6 or 7 episode pilot. I don't know, like I find Saw that interesting, and I feel Saw was very pivotal. If you watch Rebels and you watch some of these other things, like you like the way we have Saw and how Saw interacts. Saw is very pivotable to the story, right? He really is.
Yeah.
And I think he's an underutilized character.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we constantly hear throughout the different parts of the canons, particularly in Rebels, on how his methods are extreme for what he was doing against the Empire. Like, I definitely want to see that side of the story. Like, when you go to that extreme, because in his mind, the threat is that imminent that he has to go to that extreme to do it, and kind of see his story from his point of view on what he was doing during the time of the rebellion, and just see his story, that transition from the Clone Wars, seeing the betrayal, which we do see a little bit of that in Bad Batch, and just see how he progressed from there. To see how he recruits the Two Tubes brothers and everything. It'll be great.
Yeah, I'm here for it. So the last piece we haven't really talked about, and then we're going to wrap up for the night, is the weird. I don't know what that guy's name is, but that
Cyril.
weird Cyril, like the dorky guy, and his weird affection to that ISB lady, which I don't know her name either.
Yeah, I forgot her name, but oh my gosh, yeah,
that was a weird scene, though, right? Like,
yes,
I'm not crazy in that.
Yeah, especially first off, the first initial interview when they go in here, they're like, "We brought you in for questioning." It's like, "No, I'm volunteering to be in here." Like, I'm like, dude, I think you're getting this whole dynamic mixed up, and I think because she actually believed him and actually like thought of him as his information is credible. I think that's what drew that spark to like his interest in this girl. Especially when you consider, his relationship with his mother, where she just basically goes through all the things in his house, and she just constantly berates him at his home. Like, my gosh, that woman. That whole interaction where he goes and basically stalks her, waiting for her outside of her job, and just like basically hitting on her. That was definitely really, really weird, but I think that's par for course for his character because of the way that he is obsessing over this incident that has marked his life. I definitely want to see. It's like it's so uncomfortable that you just want to see how much of a train wreck he really is going to be at the end. So I'm interested like how they're going to like incorporate him further into the storyline so far.
All right, so bold predictions. Let's give a couple bold predictions here. So my first bold prediction is Luthen dies. Because he doesn't show up in Rogue One.
True.
And he obviously doesn't show up in New Hope. So I don't remember him in Rebels either.
Mothma's husband mistakes her relationship with her friend who's handling the finances as her cheating and reports her to the Empire, causing her to flee. That's my prediction.
I like that one. I think that's true too. And the best would be is that they execute him and she doesn't save him.
Yeah.
Don't kill the daughter. Leave the daughter out of this. That will bother me a little bit, but I mean it'll be realistic. But that would definitely be a Handmaid's Tale twist if they murder the daughter too. But yeah, so my real big bold prediction is Luthen's gonna die in some way, shape, or form for for the Republic, like, or for the rebels. I guess they're rebels now.
So,
And
side note on that, do you think that he is more or less soft or dedicated, I would say, compared to his assistant? Because when they were receiving communication from Bixby, he wanted to respond, and she just basically like just cut off the communications. Do you think that her she will contribute to his death?
yes, but not because he's soft or she's hard, but because she feels his death will be a greater reward to the rebellion by not outing the rest of the rebels. She will offer him up and escape. Or
Okay.
maybe she dies too. She could die too. I would be okay on either side. But I think she offers him up as the only solution to solve the problem with his loose lips and
Yeah.
his
You
wandering
know,
desire to make a rebellion.
the one thing we haven't seen on the show yet is a space battle, and we've seen in the trailers Luthien ship engaged in a battle where he basically like vertical slices two TIE fighters as he's like passing through them.
Yep.
So I wonder if that's part of him trying to escape Coruscant. Like that would be amazing if that sequence happens.
Yep. Yep. Because she outs him. He goes there. She stays as a plant for the rebels and basically explains it away, saying, "Hey, we had to sacrifice somebody. Why not it be this guy?" And in fairness, he has been careless. Like, they're establishing his carelessness. You know that, right?
Yeah,
Like they
yeah,
are very much so. And he doesn't care. And he now has a code name. It's not going to be long before they figure it out. Like, he's not important enough that they aren't going to murder him
yeah.
if they can.
And I can't wait to see like an X-Wing related to see like a Rebel Decimator pilot come up for him.
No, don't get Rebels Decimator. God damn it. You're killing me with this.
Coming out next Christmas.
Ugh.
And they'll get that transport that Cassian used to escape with the heist as the new ship that comes out for every
All right, that's probably fair. There is going to be something. I don't know. We know he's going to escape somehow because he's not dead. So,
yeah, exactly.
Whew. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for our Andor discussion. Obviously, this is probably one of my favorite times because we get to talk Star Wars lore. I love it. I love that we live in these times. Like, somebody was telling me they think there's too much Star Wars content coming out right now, and I said, there's no
It's prime
overload
time.
for me. Nothing for me. Like, I'm reading all the books. Like, I actually have 1 hour left in what was I reading? I don't have it off the top of my head. It was Shadow of the Sith, for where Rey's parents die. Like, I'm right. I have 1 hour left of that book, and then I'm done. I have to find a new Star Wars book after this. That's a new one. So if you want to post anything that's not super popular but is still within canon, if I haven't read it, that'll be my next book. So I buy the Audible credit every month. So
Have you done the Aftermath books?
yes. Oh yes.
All right. And you've done all of Alphabet Squadron and the High Republic?
Yes, I have one High Republic left. There is one of the side books I haven't finished yet.
Okay.
But because they had two series going on at the same time. So one of the series I finished. The second one, I'm 2 out of the 3 into. So that's there you go. That's probably the next one I'll read because I have that one. I had stopped reading them because I was trying to read more stuff focused that's currently being shown on Disney, because it makes me feel like it makes me feel more attached, right? Like this one about Rey's parents, like this is really good. Like there's a whole depth to Lando we've never had. Like you don't get. If you have not read Revenge of the Sith, this is actually a really good book. And like it goes like there are some revelations into Luke. We can see why I hate the Jedi training, but at the exact same time, where Luke has now been failed by not getting the training he would have gotten if we had, the Jedi Council and all of that ahead of time. So I don't know. Yeah, I've read Alphabet. I've read all of the bigger ones, so now it's just kind of fun. I didn't know this Revenge of the Seth piece thing existed, right? Until just recently. My son pointed it out. My son, usually it's my son. He'll be like, "Hey, have you read this book? If you haven't read this one, you should read this one yet, Dad."
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I got High Republic. I haven't started yet because I'm actually on my second book for Thrawn on the prequel series. The first one was excellent. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm actually just starting the second book in that one. But once I finish that, I'm kind of debating between High Republic and Alphabet Squadron. But I'll get to that once I finish Thrawn. So yeah,
You got to finish all of Thrawn.
yeah,
You are Team Endgame, baby. They're like
I know.
in
That's
our
why I'm
Nickel
pushing
City
it, man.
League. Like you have like I've read more Thrawn than you, and you didn't even draft me. I know more Thrawn than you know. Damn it! I love Thrawn. Thrawn's my favorite character. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Luthen's becoming a close second, though. So
yeah, absolutely.
all right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We will be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, for our normal podcast. We'll be back at 11 o'clock Eastern for our after show that we do the Universe Extended review of Andor, because I believe we're getting down to the wire here. We will
Yep.
definitely have another Andor segment to review, and depending
Tales of
on
the
if it's
Jedi.
an hour episode, we will also be reviewing Tales of the Jedi, which, if you have not watched, please watch it before we review it. It is amazing. I don't care what anybody says. I think every episode was totes my goats and out there. So
Yep. I never knew I needed a baby Ahsoka plush in my life, man.
yeah, I know. Like, I feel like if I buy that for my daughter and they get really into it, then I'll be like, hey.
Yeah, my daughter's really into it. She definitely wants it. So yeah.
Well, there you go. See, you have better kids than I do.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Have a good night, and we will see you next week on Planning Phase Syndicate. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.